The bit about Herod and his mass slaughter of children tends to get left out of the Christmas story. It just doesn't go with all of our other Christmas stuff. We like the angels and the shepherds and the presents from strangers who come to visit a baby, though kind of creepy when you think about it. And we definitely like the tiny baby Jesus, as modern wise man Ricky Bobby puts it in the film Talladega Nights, after being asked why he always prays to the 8-pound, 6-ounce newborn baby Jesus, don't even know a word yet, just a little infant, so cuddly, but so omnipotent. He says, well, look, I like Christmas Jesus best when I'm saying grace. We like Christmas Jesus. We like Christmas to be nice, with nice stuff. We don't like the bit about the slaughter. I've definitely never seen that scene played out by kids with tea towels on their heads at a church nativity, the slaughter of innocents as portrayed by 10-year-olds. And if we do Herod, we like to tone it down a bit, like the Herod scene in The Vicar of Dibley. The guy playing Herod stands up and says the line, "Kill all the children in Bethlehem." But upset that he's been cast as a bad guy, he ad-libs, "But kill them gently." Then he starts handing out sweets until one of the kids goes, "I love you, Herod." I think that's probably the Herod we prefer. Kill them gently. And do me a favour, Vicar, leave it out of the nativity, you're upsetting the kids again. But I think it's important that we keep Herod and his ugly mass slaughter of children in the beautiful Christmas story. And I want to tell you why. King Herod, or Herod the Great, ruled over Judea in the years leading up to Jesus' birth. He had something of an identity crisis, famous mostly for two things: his huge and ambitious building projects and his ruthless brutality. In a show of his proud Jewish identity, he rebuilt the Temple of the Lord in Jerusalem. But he used slave labor to do it and taxed the hell out of his Jewish citizens to pay for the materials. He was a puppet king held up by the Roman Empire and had a reputation for assassinating anyone he considered a threat, which included his wife and at least 2 of his own sons. Late in his reign, he began to hear rumors that the prophesied Messiah, the Savior of the people of God, the King of the Jews, had finally been born, and that terrified him. While a religious Jew might have met this news with joy and hope, King Herod only saw a threat, and believing this Messiah to be a threat to him, he decided to use the tool that insecure despots and dictators always use when they feel threatened: violence. Herod recruited the chief priests and the scribes, the sort of people that know about this sort of thing, to find out if they could tell him where the Messiah was to be born. They found him an answer from the book of Micah. "But you, O Bethlehem of Ephrathah, who are one of the little clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me one who is to rule in Israel, whose origin is from of old, from ancient of days." Micah 5:2. Bethlehem. The child will be born in Bethlehem. Herod had heard that some wise men from the east were asking about the child who had been born king of the Jews. So he called them to him and he tried to recruit them to locate the child for him so he could have the child killed. But through some divine intervention, that plan didn't work. And when he eventually realized that his plan hadn't worked and that the wise men had tricked him, Herod flew into a rage and he went to plan B. He had all the children in and around Bethlehem aged 2 or younger killed. A mass slaughter of innocent children right in the middle of the Christmas story. When he did that, he mirrored the behavior of Pharaoh centuries before. In his slaughter of innocent children, Herod emulated Pharaoh's slaughter of the Hebrew children in the time of Moses. A descendant of the slaves is now behaving like the slave masters. The good guys have become the bad guys. Brian D. McLaren said in his book, We Make the Road by Walking, that the story of Herod tells us once again that the world cannot be divided into good guys, us, and bad guys, them. Because, like Herod, members of us will behave no differently to them, given the power and the provocation. Us is quite capable of behaving like them. The good guys can become the bad guys. The reality of human existence is that nobody is all good. We are all capable of being Herod. Probably we'll never have the opportunity to do evil on such a scale. But in our own smaller ways, we are all capable and often guilty of selfish and greedy behavior. We are capable of cruelty and unkindness. We all have it in us to be the bad guy. That's why we need to keep Herod in Christmas. As we prepare to celebrate the coming of Christ into our world, we must face the ugliness that greets him. We must face the ugliness in our world and the ugliness in ourselves, the things that need the touch of the incarnation. And the Bible gives us that opportunity right in the middle of the story. And as we face that ugliness in the Christmas story, and as we let that discomfort and unease wash over us, as we watch that awkward mass murder scene in the kids' nativity, I'm kidding, don't do that. We are reminded that it's still a beautiful story. That in spite of the ugliness and horror, Jesus is still born. Christ is still incarnate. Despite the challenge and adversity, despite the ugly bits, the Messiah still comes. Hope is still born, and Jesus will still renew and redeem the whole story. We'll still make it all good again. We'll still restore creation. The ugly bits don't ruin the story. They make it better. And when we realize that, then we can also realize that maybe, just maybe, our ugly bits don't have to ruin our story either. As we face the ugliness and the darkness inside of ourselves, those bits that we don't want to admit are there, our inner Herod, our inner bad guy, we realize that it's still a beautiful story. In spite of our ugliness, Jesus is still born. Jesus is still incarnate in us. Despite our ugliness, Jesus still comes to us, still gives us hope, and still redeems our whole story. Despite our ugliness, Jesus can still restore us, still redeem us. Jesus can still make it good again, because that's what Jesus does. He makes things that have gone bad good again. So we keep Herod and his ugly mass murder in the beautiful Christmas story. And we keep you too, and your ugliness in the beautiful story of Jesus. Because the ugly bits don't make the story worse, they make it better. Jesus doesn't want you to hide from your ugliness. He wants you to face it. And then he wants to make it good again.
After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of your will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said throughout the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious. He gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. "A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and greet mourning. Rachel wept, weeping for her children and for reducing to be comforted, because there are no more.